The cold of space never bothered Commander anymore. After 20 years of service in the United Earth Defense Corps, she had learned to find comfort in the endless darkness. Listening Post Artemis 7 was her home now, a small station built into the frozen surface of a moon that orbited a massive gas giant. It was the edge of human territory, the last place where Earth's flag flew before the unknown began. 47 people lived under her command: scientists, engineers, communications officers, and a small team of Marines. They were not warriors looking for glory. They were watchers. Their job was simple: listen to the void and report anything unusual back to Earth. Stood at the observation window of her office and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of human ships, other species lived their lives. Humanity had found signs of them: old signals, ancient ruins on dead worlds, energy patterns that could only come from technology. But in 300 years of space travel, humans had never made direct contact with another intelligent species. Some people thought they were alone. Others believed contact was coming soon, did not care much either way. She had a job to do, and she did it well. A knock came at her door. "Come in," she said without turning around. Doctor entered the room. She was a small woman with tired eyes and messy black hair. As the stations, her job was to study any alien signals they detected and try to understand them. Most days she had nothing to do, but today something was different. Could see it in the way she moved. "Commander, I need to show you something," said. Followed her to the communications center. Banks of computers lined the walls, their screens filled with data streams and signal patterns. Pointed to one screen in particular. "I detected this 6 hours ago," she said. "At first I thought it was just background radiation, but look at the pattern." Leaned closer. The signal appeared as a series of waves on the screen. They rose and fell in a rhythm that seemed almost deliberate. "It is too regular to be natural," continued, "and it is getting stronger. Something is approaching." Felt a cold sensation in her stomach that had nothing to do with the temperature. "Can you determine a source?" "Not yet, but based on the signal strength, whatever is sending this will be within sensor range in approximately 4 hours. Nodded slowly. "File a report to Earth Command, mark it as priority observation, and wake up Lieutenant. I want the sensor arrays at full power." The next 4 hours passed slowly. Did not sleep. She sat in the command center and watched the screens as her crew worked around her. The signal grew stronger with each passing minute. Then, without warning, it stopped. "Commander," called out Corporal from the sensor station. He was young, barely 22 years old, with bright eyes that had not yet seen the horrors that space could offer. "3 contacts just appeared on our screens. They came out of nowhere." Moved to his station and looked at the data. 3 objects had emerged from what appeared to be a tier in space itself, a jump point that no human had ever mapped. The objects were ships, sleek and black, shaped like blades cutting through the void. "Open a channel," ordered, "all frequencies." The communications officer. Static filled the room for a moment, then silence. "Unknown vessels, this is Commander of the United Earth Defense Corps," she said, keeping her voice calm and steady. "You have entered human-controlled space. We welcome you in peace and wish to establish communication. Please respond." Silence. Tried again. "Unknown vessels, we mean you no harm. We are a research station with no offensive capabilities. Please identify yourselves." The alien ships did not answer. They simply hung there in the darkness, 3 black shapes against the stars. Minutes passed. Kept talking, trying every first contact protocol that humanity had developed over 3 centuries of hopping for this moment. The aliens never said a word. Then they opened fire. The first shot hit the station's communication array, was thrown from her feet as the entire structure shook around her. Alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed everywhere. She pulled herself up and looked at the screens. The alien weapons were unlike anything in human databases, concentrated beams of energy that cut through their shields like they were made of paper. "Return fire," she shouted, knowing it was useless. Artemis 7 had only defensive weapons, small guns meant to destroy space debris, not fight warships. "Shields are failing," someone yelled. "Hull breach on Deck 3. We have lost life support in the eastern wing." Watched her station die around her. She watched her people die. Through the chaos, she saw Corporal fighting with his console, his fingers moving desperately across the controls. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Distress beacon," he said through gritted teeth. "If we cannot survive, Earth has to know what happened here." A massive explosion rocked the station. The ceiling above them cracked and saw stars through the gap. The cold of space began to pour in. "Launch it," she screamed. Hit the final command. A small pod ejected from the station, carrying with it every piece of data they had collected: the alien ships, the attack, the unanswered calls for peace. Looked at the young man. He looked back at her. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing left to say. The next shot hit the station's reactor core. The explosion was instantaneous. One moment, Artemis 7 existed. The next, it was nothing but debris spreading slowly through the void. 47 humans died in that moment. Scientists who had dedicated their lives to understanding the universe. Engineers who had kept the station running through every hardship. Marines who had signed up to protect humanity. All of them gone in a flash of light. The alien ships remained for several minutes. They scanned the debris as if making sure nothing had survived. Then, satisfied with their work, they turned and vanished back through the jump point they had come from. They left no message. They took no prisoners. They made no attempt to explain what they had done or why. The only thing that survived was the distress beacon. It tumbled through space, its red light blinking steadily in the darkness. It contained the final moments of 47 human beings who had done nothing wrong except exist in the wrong place at the wrong time. The beacon flew through the void for 3 days. It passed through clouds of cosmic dust and fields of ancient ice. It moved faster than any natural object, driven by the small engine that had activated in his final moments. On the 4th day, it reached a relay station at the edge of human space. An automated system detected its signal and began to download the data it carried. Within minutes, that data was compressed and sent deeper into human territory, jumping from relay to relay in a chain that stretched across 40 light-years. On Earth, in a building deep beneath the city of Geneva, a computer screen began to flash. A young officer noticed the alert and opened the file. His face went pale as he watched the recording. Within an hour, the message had reached the highest levels of human government. Within 2 hours, admirals and presidents were watching the destruction of Artemis 7 in horrified silence. And somewhere in the cold depths of space, the debris of the station continued to spread, a silent memorial to those who had died, and 44 others whose names would soon be known across all of human civilization. They had been killed without warning, without reason, without mercy. And humanity would not forget. Admiral had seen many terrible things in his 60 years of life. He had fought in the Belt Wars when he was young. He had watched friends die in the cold vacuum of space. He had made decisions that cost thousands of lives and saved millions more, but nothing had prepared him for what he saw on the screen in front of him. The recording from Artemis 7 played in the main conference room of United Earth Defense Command headquarters. The room was deep underground, beneath the old city of Geneva, protected by layers of concrete and steel. Around the long table sat the most powerful people in human civilization: admirals, generals, intelligence directors, and politicians. All of them watched in silence as the attack unfolded. They saw the 3 alien ships emerge from the unknown jump point. They heard Commander try again and again to establish peaceful contact. They watched as the aliens ignored every message and opened fire without hesitation. They saw the station break apart and heard the screams of dying men and women. When the recording ended, no one spoke for a long time. Admiral stood at the head of the table. He was a tall man with dark skin and gray hair cut short in military fashion. His face showed no emotion, but inside, a cold fire was beginning to burn. 47 dead, he said finally. Every single person on that station. The aliens made no attempt to communicate. They made no demands. They did not try to capture the station or take prisoners. They simply killed everyone and left. Director of the Office of Threat Assessment rose from her seat. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a brilliant mind. Her job was to analyze potential threats from alien civilizations. "We have traced the alien ships back to their point of origin," she said. "Based on the jump point trajectory and energy signatures, they come from a system approximately 200 light-years from Earth, a yellow star with 7 planets. The 4th planet shows clear signs of advanced civilization, cities, industrial activity, orbital structures." "Do we have population estimates?" asked President. She sat at the far end of the table, watching everything with careful attention. Was known throughout human space as a leader who preferred diplomacy to war. She had ended 3 conflicts through negotiation alone. "Between 8 and 12 billion inhabitants," replied. "Their technology appears to be roughly comparable to our own, perhaps slightly behind in some areas, slightly ahead in others." Silence fell again. 12 billion people, an entire civilization, and they had just committed an act of war against humanity without any provocation. President spoke carefully. "Before we make any decisions, we need to consider all possibilities. Perhaps this was a rogue military faction acting without orders from their government. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding. Our signals might have been interpreted as hostile. We should send a diplomatic mission to establish contact and find out what really happened." Several people around the table nodded, but Admiral shook his head slowly. "Madam President, I understand your desire for peace. I share it. War is the failure of civilization and no sane person wants it." He paused and looked at the frozen image on the screen, the last frame of the recording, showing the debris of Artemis 7 spreading through space. "But consider the facts. Our people followed every protocol for peaceful first contact. They broadcast on all frequencies. They stated clearly that they had no weapons and meant no harm. The aliens had hours to respond. Hours to ask questions. Hours to demand that we identify ourselves." He stepped closer to the table and placed his hands flat on its surface. "They chose silence. They chose to attack a defenseless research station full of scientists and support staff. They did not even attempt to communicate after the attack began. They did not offer terms of surrender. They simply killed everyone and made sure nothing survived." His voice grew harder. This was not a mistake or a misunderstanding. This was a message. They wanted us to know they could reach us. They wanted us to know they could kill us. They wanted us to be afraid. "And what do you propose?" asked. "We send them a message of our own." The room erupted in voices. Some supported, others called for caution. Arguments flew back and forth across the table. Through it all, the Admiral remained still and silent, waiting for the noise to die down. When it finally did, he spoke again. "Every species out there is watching us. We have known for years that the galaxy is not empty. There are dozens, maybe hundreds, of civilizations observing humanity to see what kind of species we are. If we respond to this attack with diplomacy, if we send envoys to beg for explanations, what message do we send?" He answered his own question. "We tell them that humans can be killed without consequence. We tell them that a single attack on one of our outposts carries no real price. And then, 5 years from now, another species tries something similar, and another, until we are defending ourselves on 100 fronts against enemies who know we will not fight back." President listened carefully. She was not a foolish woman. She understood the logic of what was saying, but she also understood what he was really proposing. "You want to destroy them," she said. "Not defeat them, not force them to surrender, destroy them completely." "Yes. 12 billion beings. Men, women, children, families, lives." 47 humans replied. Scientists, engineers, soldiers. Commander who served Earth faithfully for 20 years. Doctor who dreamed of peaceful contact with alien life. Corporal, 22 years old, on his first deep space assignment. His voice dropped lower. "They had families too, Madam President. They had lives too." The room was silent again. Everyone understood what was being discussed. This was not just about revenge. It was about survival, about establishing a principle that would echo across the galaxy for centuries. Closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her face was set with terrible determination. "We will vote," she announced. "All members of the Emergency Council will cast their decision. A simple majority will determine our course of action." The votes were cast electronically. Each council member entered their choice in secret. When the counting was done, the result appeared on the main screen. 17 in favor of military response, 8 opposed. Nodded slowly. "The decision is made. Admiral, you have authorization to proceed." Straightened to his full height. "I will need 3 months to assemble the fleet and prepare our weapons. When we will move with overwhelming force. There will be no half measures, no limited strikes. We will end this threat completely and permanently." "Do what you must," said quietly, "and may history forgive us all." That night, messages began to flow across human space. Ships were recalled from routine patrols. Reserves were activated. Weapons that had been stored in deep bunkers for generations were brought out and inspected. In the shipyards of Mars, engineers worked around the clock to prepare the great warships for battle. In the asteroid belt, factories that had been dormant for decades roared back to life, producing missiles and bombs by the thousands. On Luna, scientists checked and rechecked the targeting systems of weapons so powerful that their very existence had been kept secret from the public. Humanity had not fought a major war in over a century, but they had never forgotten how. The machines of destruction that humans had created during their long and bloody history were still there, waiting in the darkness. Now they were waking up. And somewhere, 200 light-years away, an alien civilization continued its daily existence without knowing what was coming. They had killed 47 humans and thought nothing more of it. They would soon learn their mistake. The fleet gathered in the darkness of the cloud, far from the light of the sun. 200 warships hung in formation against the endless black of space. They were the largest and most powerful vessels humanity had ever built, dreadnoughts and battle cruisers, carriers and destroyers, each one carrying enough firepower to level a continent. Captain stood on the bridge of the flagship, a massive dreadnought named Prometheus. He was a man of 45 years with cold gray eyes and hands that had never shaken in battle. He had commanded ships for 20 years and had never lost a single engagement. Now, he looked out at the assembled armada and felt the weight of what they were about to do pressing down on his shoulders. "Status report," he said. Lieutenant looked up from her tactical station. She was young for her rank, only 32, but her mind was one of the sharpest in the fleet. She had run the battle simulations 100 times. She knew exactly what their weapons would do. "All ships report ready, Captain. Weapons charged. Jump drives calibrated. We can depart on your command." Nodded. He activated the fleet-wide communication channel. His voice would reach 50,000 men and women across 200 ships. "This is Captain of the Prometheus. In a few hours, we will make the longest coordinated jump in human history, 200 light-years. When we arrive, we will face an enemy that has already demonstrated its willingness to kill without mercy or warning." He paused to let his words sink in. "I will not pretend that what we are about to do is simple or easy. We are not going to capture territory. We are not going to negotiate terms. We are going to destroy an entire civilization. 12 billion beings will die because of what we do today. The silence across the fleet was absolute. Every sailor and soldier listened. Some of you may question whether this is right. Some of you may wonder if there was another way. I have asked myself these same questions. His voice hardened. And then I remember Artemis 7. I remember 47 humans who offered nothing but peace and were murdered for it. I remember Commander who followed every protocol and was killed anyway. We did not start this war. We did not choose this enemy, but we will finish it. We will make an example so complete, so absolute, that no species in this galaxy will ever again consider attacking humanity. Our children and their children will live in peace because of what we do today. That is our duty. That is our burden. He straightened his shoulders. Prepare for jump. We depart in 30 minutes. Out. The channel closed. Turned to find Chief Engineer standing behind him. Was an older man with kind eyes and gentle hands. He had helped design many of the weapons they were carrying. Now he looked troubled. "Something on your mind, Chief?" asked. "The Prometheus device," said quietly. "Are you really prepared to use it?" Did not answer immediately. The Prometheus device was the most terrible weapon humanity had ever created. It could destabilize a star, causing it to expand rapidly and consume its inner planets. It had never been tested on a live target. Its very existence had been classified at the highest levels for 50 years. "If necessary, yes." Shook his head slowly. "I helped build it. I told myself it was just a deterrent, something so terrible that no one would ever actually use it. Now I wonder if I was fooling myself." "Would you rather we did nothing?" asked. "Would you rather we let them think they can kill us without consequence?" "No," admitted. "But there must be something between nothing and everything, between doing nothing and destroying a star." Placed a hand on the old engineer's shoulder. "If they surrender, we will accept it. If they show any sign of regret or willingness to make peace, we will listen. But if they fight, we will not hold back. The galaxy is watching us. Every predator species out there wants to know what humans are made of. Today, we show them." 30 minutes later, the fleet jumped. The sensation of faster-than-light travel was always strange. A moment of nothing, a feeling of being everywhere and nowhere at once, and then reality snapping back into place. When the Prometheus emerged from its jump, found himself looking at an alien star. It was a yellow sun, not so different from Earth's. 7 planets orbited it in steady paths. The 4th planet was blue and green, covered with oceans and continents. Even from this distance, the signs of civilization were visible: clusters of light on the night side, satellites in orbit, massive space stations hanging above the atmosphere. "Sensor sweep complete," Lieutenant reported. Her voice was steady but could see tension in her shoulders. "Defense platforms around the 4th planet, orbital shipyards, at least 1,000 military vessels, maybe more." "Any response to our arrival?" "They have detected us. Their fleet is mobilizing." Nodded. He had expected this. "Open a channel, all frequencies, mathematical patterns, standard first contact protocols, everything we have." The communication officer, for several minutes, broadcast a message to the alien civilization. "This is Captain of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You attacked our outpost at Artemis 7 without provocation. You killed 47 human beings who offered you peace. You will now witness the consequences of that action. If you wish to surrender and face judgment for your crimes, respond now." Silence. Then the alien fleet began to move. Hundreds of black ships, the same blade-like design that had destroyed Artemis 7, surged toward the human formation. They did not respond to the message. They did not try to negotiate. Just like before, they simply attacked. "Incoming hostile fleet," announced. "They will be in weapons range in 12 minutes." Lieutenant had run the simulations. She knew the numbers. The human fleet was outnumbered 5-1, but she also knew something the aliens did not. Human weapons were devastatingly effective. All ships said calmly, "Weapons free." The battle began. Human warships opened fire with focused antimatter beams that cut through alien vessels like hot knives through butter. Missiles launched by the thousands, each one carrying warheads powerful enough to vaporize a small moon. The alien ships fought back, their energy weapons splashing against human shields, but the difference in power was immediately clear. Alien ships exploded by the dozen, then by the hundred. Their formations broke apart as human weapons found target after target. The black blades that had seemed so terrifying at Artemis 7 shattered like glass against the fury of Earth's retribution. Lieutenant watched her tactical display with wide eyes. She had expected casualties. She had calculated that at least a quarter of the human fleet would be lost. Instead, she saw alien ships dying in waves while human losses remained minimal. 6 hours later, it was over. The alien fleet was reduced to scattered debris floating in the void. Human losses stood at 12 ships and 2,000 personnel, a fraction of what had predicted. "Captain," she said quietly, "their defense fleet is destroyed. We have a clear path to the planet." Looked at the blue-green world on the main screen. Cities sparkled on its surface. 12 billion beings lived down there, families, children, ordinary people who might not have had any say in the decision to attack Artemis 7. For a moment, he hesitated. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel the weight of what he was about to do. Then he remembered the recording. He remembered Commander trying to establish peaceful contact. He remembered the aliens responding with murder. "Move the fleet into position," he ordered. "Prepare all weapons. We finish this today." The 200 human ships began their approach to the alien. Behind them, the wreckage of 1,000 enemy vessels tumbled slowly through the void, the first payment for what had been done at Artemis 7. But it was not nearly enough. Not yet. The human fleet approached the alien in perfect formation. 200 warships, their weapons charged and ready, moved through the debris of the enemy fleet they had just destroyed. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain watched the planet grow larger on the main screen. It was beautiful. Even he could admit that. Blue oceans covered most of the surface, broken by continents of green and brown. Clouds swirled in patterns that reminded him of Earth. Cities glowed on the night side. Clusters of light that marked billions of lives lived in homes and buildings not so different from the ones humans built. "Defense platforms detected," Lieutenant reported. "Orbital stations as well. They are powering weapons." "Destroy them," ordered. The fleet opened fire. Antimatter beams lanced out from human warships, striking the alien defense platforms with terrible precision. One by one, the orbital fortresses that protected the planet exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Space stations broke apart, their wreckage falling toward the atmosphere below. Within an hour, the planet's orbital defenses were gone. The human fleet had taken no additional losses. "Captain," the communications officer said suddenly, "we are receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It appears to be a response to our earlier message." Felt something shift in his chest. Put it through. The main screen flickered and an alien appeared. It was vaguely humanoid, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head with eyes and a mouth, but its skin was gray and covered with fine scales. Its eyes were large and yellow, and they held an expression that recognized immediately. "Fear." The alien spoke, and the translation software converted its words into human language. "We surrender. We offer complete surrender. Please stop your attack. We will accept any terms you demand." Stared at the creature on the screen. Behind it, he could see others of its kind, all of them watching with the same terrified expressions. For a moment, no one on the bridge spoke. Then Admiral's voice came through the quantum link that connected the fleet to Earth Command. He had been watching everything in real time from Geneva. "Captain, this is Admiral. Do not accept their surrender." Turned toward the speaker. "Admiral." They had every chance to communicate at Artemis 7. They chose silence and murder. Now they speak only because they are losing. His voice was cold and steady. "If we accept their surrender, we show the galaxy that attacking humans carries a cost, but a manageable one. They will rebuild. They will remember their humiliation, and in 100 years they will come for us again." "Admiral, there are 12 billion people on that planet. Civilians, children. And 47 humans died on Artemis 7. Scientists, engineers, a young Marine on his first deployment." There was no emotion in his voice, only iron determination. "Captain, your orders are clear. Complete the mission." The alien on the screen was still pleading. "We will give you anything. Resources, technology, territory. We will become your servants if you wish. Only please, please stop." Looked at the creature. He thought about what it would feel like to be in its position, to watch an unstoppable force approaching your home, knowing there was nothing you could do to stop it. He thought about mercy. He thought about justice. Then he thought about Commander, who had begged for peaceful communication and received death in return. "You had your chance to talk," he said quietly. "You chose to kill. This is the consequence." He cut the transmission. "All ships," he announced to the fleet, "begin bombardment of the planetary surface. Target all military installations, government centers, and industrial facilities." The fleet opened fire on the planet below. Lieutenant executed her orders with mechanical precision, but her hands trembled slightly as she worked her console. Missiles launched from the human warships in waves, streaking down through the atmosphere and striking targets across the alien world. Explosions bloomed on the surface, first dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. She watched the numbers on her screen climb higher, casualties mounting, cities burning, a civilization dying. "Captain," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "there are civilian population centers in many of these areas. We are causing massive collateral damage." "I am aware," replied. His face showed no expression. "Sir," hesitated. "There are children down there, families, people who had nothing to do with what happened at Artemis 7. Turned to look at her. His gray eyes were ancient with grief and terrible with purpose. "Lieutenant, do you think I want this? Do you think I enjoy what we are doing here?" "No, sir. The ones who ordered the attack on our outpost are down there too. And if we leave them alive, if we show them mercy they never showed us, what happens next?" He stepped closer to her station. "They rebuild, they remember. They hate us for what we did today, but they fear us too. And that fear keeps them quiet for 50 years, maybe 100. But eventually their fear fades and their hatred remains. And then they come for us again, not for one outpost, but for Earth itself." Said nothing. Tears were forming in her eyes. "I do not ask you to like this," said more gently. "I do not ask you to approve of it. I only ask you to do your duty and trust that history will understand why we had no other choice." The bombardment continued for hours. The alien civilization tried to fight back. Ground-based weapons fired at the human ships, and surviving aircraft rose to challenge them. But it was hopeless. Human technology was simply too advanced, too powerful. Every attempt at resistance was crushed. When the surface defenses were gone and the major cities lay in ruins, gave the final order. "Activate the Prometheus device. Target the star." Chief Engineer had been silent throughout the bombardment. Now he stepped forward, his face pale. "Captain, please. The planet is already devastated. Their civilization is broken. Is the device truly necessary?" "The planet can be rebuilt," answered. "Survivors can emerge from shelters and start again. In 1,000 years they could be a threat once more." He shook his head slowly. "No, we end this completely. We leave nothing behind." Hesitated for one more moment. Then, with hands that shook only slightly, he entered the activation codes. Deep in the heart of the Prometheus, A weapon unlike any other came to life. It fired a beam of energy that human scientists did not fully understand, something that affected the fundamental forces holding a star together. The beam crossed the distance to the yellow sun at the center of the system and struck its core. For a few minutes, nothing seemed to happen. Then the star began to change. Its surface rippled and bulged. Streams of plasma erupted from its poles. The light it gave off shifted from yellow to orange to angry red. "It is working," reported quietly. "The stellar core is becoming unstable. The star will expand to several times its normal size within the next 8 hours. The inner 4 planets will be consumed, including the alien." Watched the dying star on his screen. He thought about the 12 billion beings on the planet below who were watching the same thing, watching their sun grow larger and redder, knowing that death was coming and there was nowhere to run. "All ships," he said, "prepare to withdraw." As the fleet turned to leave, Lieutenant remained at her station. She was crying openly now, tears running down her face as she watched the destruction unfold. No one told her to stop. No one looked at her with judgment. Every person on that bridge understood what they had done. They had saved humanity. They had secured peace for generations to come, and they had killed 12 billion people to do it. The fleet jumped away before the star finished its death throes. But in the days that followed, long-range sensors confirmed what happened. The alien sun expanded into a bloated red giant, its outer layers sweeping across the orbits of its inner planets. The alien was consumed by fire, its oceans boiling away, its atmosphere stripped into space, its surface melted into glass. Nothing survived. No buildings, no ships, no people. An entire civilization erased from existence as if it had never been. And across the galaxy, 1,000 different species with 1,000 different technologies watched and recorded what humanity had done. They would remember. They would tell stories about the humans and their terrible vengeance. The galaxy had learned what happened when you killed humans. Now everyone knew to be afraid. 1 year had passed since the destruction of the alien system. On Earth, life continued much as it always had. Children went to school. Workers traveled to their jobs. Families gathered for meals and celebrated holidays. Most people tried not to think too much about what had been done in their name. It was easier that way. But some things had changed. President stood at the window of her office in Geneva, looking out at the city below. The sun was setting, painting the old buildings in shades of gold and orange. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. And she could not stop thinking about another sun, one that had been turned into a weapon of genocide. Her assistant entered the room. "Madam President, the alien envoy has arrived." Took a deep breath and composed herself. "Send them in." The being that entered her office was unlike anything she had ever seen. It stood nearly 7 feet tall, and its body appeared to be made of living crystal, thousands of facets that caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. It moved with a strange grace, as if it were not entirely bound by gravity. "President," it said. Its voice was like wind chimes in a breeze. "I am ambassador of the Galactic Assembly. I have been authorized to speak on behalf of 217 spacefaring civilizations." Gestured to a chair. "Please sit." "I prefer to stand. This will not take long." The two leaders regarded each other in silence for a moment, then spoke again. "We know what you did. The destruction of the system you call X7 was observed by monitoring stations across the galaxy. Every species with faster-than-light capability has seen the recordings." "We did what we had to do," replied. "They attacked us first. They destroyed one small outpost, 47 individuals, the crystal being tilted its head. You responded by killing 12 billion. And how many would have died if we had shown weakness? How many human colonies would have been attacked by other species who thought we were easy prey?" Was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, Its voice carried a note of something that might have been sadness. "I have lived for 9,000 years, President. I have watched civilizations rise and fall across this galaxy. I have seen wars of conquest and wars of survival, acts of mercy and acts of cruelty." It paused. "I have never seen anything quite like what your species did." Is that a condemnation? It is an observation. The species you destroyed were not innocent. They had conquered 3 other civilizations before they encountered you. They believed that strength was the only law that mattered. When they found your outpost, they saw an opportunity to test a potential rival. Frowned, they were testing us. They expected you to respond with caution, with diplomacy, with the careful, measured approach that most young civilizations take. The crystal facets of his body flickered with inner light. They did not expect you to burn their entire solar system. Then they learned something about humanity. Indeed they did, as did everyone else. Moved closer to the window, looking out at the city below. There is a concept in galactic politics that translates roughly as proportional response. When one civilization offends another, the response is expected to be appropriate to the offense. An insult is answered with an insult. An attack is answered with an attack. But what you did, what we did ensures that no one will ever attack us again. Perhaps turn back to face her. Or perhaps you have simply made the galaxy afraid of you. And fear, President, is not the same as respect. Fear can turn to hatred very quickly. We can live with being feared. The ambassador studied her with its strange, crystalline eyes. The Galactic Assembly has debated at great length how to respond to your actions. Some members wish to form an alliance against you, to destroy humanity before you become an even greater threat. Others argued that you had the right to defend yourselves, even if your methods were extreme. Felt a cold chill run down her spine, but she kept her face calm. And what did you decide? We decided to do nothing. Made a gesture that might have been a shrug. You are too dangerous to challenge directly. Your technology may be young, but your capacity for violence is extraordinary. Any war against humanity would cost us dearly, perhaps too dearly. So we will be left alone. You will be left alone. You will not be invited to join the Galactic Assembly. You will not be included in the great treaties that govern relations between civilizations. You will exist apart, watched but not approached, feared but not befriended. Considered this, many would call that a victory. Perhaps it is. Perhaps you do not need friends among the stars. Perhaps fear is enough to keep you safe. Moved toward the door. But I wonder, President, I wonder what it will do to your species to be alone in a galaxy full of beings who see you as monsters. After the ambassador left, stood at the window for a long time, watching the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. Far across the planet, on a quiet beach on the coast of Australia, Captain sat alone on the sand. He had retired from the Navy 3 months after returning from the alien system. The medals they offered him remained in a drawer somewhere, never worn. The promotion to admiral that they wanted to give him was refused. He did not want to be celebrated for what he had done. The sun was setting over the ocean, painting the water in shades of red and gold. Watched it without really seeing it. In his mind, he saw a different sun, a yellow star turning red as it died, consuming everything around it. A small girl ran past him, chasing a dog along the water's edge. Her laughter rang out across the beach, pure and innocent and full of joy. Watched her, and for the first time in months, he felt something other than emptiness. This was why he had done it. This child, and millions like her across human space, would grow up without fear. They would never know the terror of alien ships appearing without warning, never experience the helpless horror of watching their loved ones die in attacks that came without reason or mercy. The price for that safety had been 12 billion lives, carried that weight every day. He saw their faces in his dreams, the faces of beings he had never met, lives he had ended without ever knowing their names. He did not know if what he had done was right. Philosophers and historians would debate that question for centuries. Some would call him a hero who saved humanity. Others would call him the greatest mass murderer in galactic history. Both would probably be correct. A man approached across the sand and sat down beside him. It was Admiral, older now, his hair fully white, but his eyes still sharp and determined. "I thought I might find you here," said. "Did you come to convince me to come back?" "No, I came to tell you something." Looked out at the ocean. "The Galactic Assembly has made their decision known. They will not attack us. They will not sanction us. They will simply avoid us." "I heard. Some people are calling it isolation. Some are calling it victory." Paused. "I call it survival." Said nothing. "The galaxy knows what we are now," continued. "They know that humanity will pay any price and bear any burden to protect its own. They know that we do not make empty threats and we do not forgive attacks on our people." He turned to look at. "Because of what you did, no one will ever again consider attacking a human outpost. Our children are safe." "And what about their children?" asked quietly. "The alien children who burned when their star exploded." Was silent for a long time. Finally he said, "I do not have a good answer for that. Perhaps there is no good answer. We did what we believed was necessary. Whether it was right," he shook his head, "history will judge us." They sat together as the sun disappeared below the horizon. The stars came out, thousands of them, millions of them, spread across the sky in patterns that humans had watched since the dawn of their species. Somewhere out there, alien captains were telling their crews stories about the humans. They spoke of a species that answered a single attack with total annihilation, a species that valued its own so fiercely that it would burn entire worlds to avenge them, a species that was young and fierce and utterly unwilling to accept loss. They called humans many things in the languages of the galaxy: destroyers, avengers, monsters. But the most common translation was a phrase that spoke of something deeper than fear. It spoke of a truth that every species now understood about the strange two-legged creatures from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. They called them those who do not forgive. And in the silence of space, where the ashes of 12 billion beings floated in an empty system around a swollen red star, that name echoed like a warning that would last for 10,000 years. Humanity was safe. The cost would be remembered forever.